Hello, Mavs fans and probably some Lakers fans. I'm Kirk Henderson. This is an episode of Kirk Your Enthusiasm. Today, I am joined by my friend Daman Rangoola. Daman, how you doing?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. How you doing?
Well, for full edification for our audience, Daman and I talk throughout most days. And I was just, I've really, after the Luka Doncic trade, I didn't really talk to many Lakers people because I hate you all. There's just so much, didn't really want to talk about it. There's also just so much stuff we were learning.
Yep.
It didn't really make a lot of sense to talk about it at the time. And this Lakers game has, coming up Wednesday night, we're recording, Tuesday morning. This Lakers game has just sort of been out there staring at me. The Mavericks have been stumbling and bumbling towards this play-in race. The Lakers are trying to establish their own seeding, and there just wasn't really a time where I was like, you know what, I want to talk to one of my friends about this, because it's honestly it's gotten to the point where I'm just kind of like, can I have a break? The answer to that question is no. No, I cannot have a break. So I was just thinking yesterday morning, I was like, you know what, I want to talk to Daman because, for everybody who doesn't know Daman, you are, if you wanted to, you just don't really have the time. But if you wanted to, you could do what I do very easily and effectively in terms of having a second job as a Lakers content creator. You go on a number of different podcasts. You are friendly with all the different right Lakers people. You love the Lakers. You've been a fan since since you were a kid, basically?
Yeah, basically ever since. I learned about basketball through Kobe and Shaq, and just been since then.
So this is it's you're just like me in that this is kind of a part of your identity. It's doing
Absolutely.
basketball. The basketball stuff just is sort of what you do, and probably in a much deeper way than me, just because the Lakers are kind of a bigger entity. You and I always kind of laugh about certain stuff because we end up being sort of nexus points for information that we can't share it with anyone.
Yep.
Because you're not a reporter, I'm not a reporter, but you hear these things that are literal news things, and so the result is you just kind of talk about them with your other friends that you can't talk about.
No, absolutely.
Because you don't want to get anybody in trouble, but you also, it's God, knowing this stuff, what good does it do me, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, first of all, I just want to jump in and say thank you. Very, very kind words. You're selling yourself short because to do this also requires a level of consistency and just doing it day in, day out, even when you don't want to, which I suspect you felt many, many times over the last few weeks and months. So give yourself more credit, but I appreciate your kind words.
Our mutual friend and former Silver Screen and Roll editor, he's basically my boss at SB Nation, Harrison Fagan, just tweeted me and said, "No one I trust to sensitively prepare an opposing fan base for trauma more than Daman."
The thing is, it's I feel really weird being here in the sense of I would never insult a fan base, especially the Mavs right now, to say, I understand what you're going through, because I don't and I can't. And so I just feel a big part of your audience is probably dude, I don't want to hear from anybody or anything to do with them.
The people who are with us at this point, that's kind of a fun starting point. The people who are with us at this point have more or less decided to stick it out.
Right.
The Mavs who are over this, the Mavs fans who are over this have kind of moved on, to the point where I get interactions on Twitter that are just look, I still follow you on Twitter, but I'm not watching the games anymore. And I'm going to be very interested to see, we'll probably circle back to this in various forms, but I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with the Maverick season ticket holder prices, the overall financial data around the team, because they bought essentially the new owners bought essentially a 66% stake in the Mavericks, and then promptly for whatever billions of dollars, $3.5 billion, and then promptly devalued the franchise within about a year and a half. So there, I know these people, the Adelsons, are beyond wealthy, but at a certain point, like, the bottom line comes into play here, and they've really, really like done a number on this because they don't have a local TV rights deal. They had just built up a pretty lucrative, I don't know if it was lucrative, but it was like an interesting television base with this streaming service, Mavs TV. They had made sure that it was going to be out in a lot of local markets throughout Texas, so it wouldn't be blacked out. And then they like just kind of kick themselves in the dick, and now nobody really wants to watch the team. Okay, so that actually, like, let's sort of start there. So one of the funny parts about all my Laker fans friends is throughout my time, and granted, I want you to keep in mind, guys, I went to college in Southern California. I remember where I was when Kobe scored 62 points or whatever it was in 3 quarters, like where I was standing on Pepperdine's campus. Like, people were giving me shit. I have like an institutional like blood hatred for the Lakers. And so I've, everybody gets a little smarmy whenever there's like Lakers trades involved, because there's sort of like a divine right element involved with Lakers fans being like, oh, well, this player can be ours one day. I'm sure like the Cooper Flag mock-ups have already started, but this is the first trade in my experience where all Lakers fans are sitting here going, what the fuck? So walk me through sort of briefly your sort of experience when this happened.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I think everybody, when the tweet first came from Shams and we were in a chat, and I was just like, yeah, this is obviously a hack. Like, this is, just chill out. This is like, this is not real. There's no way. And I immediately, like 5 minutes after, got a text from somebody who I trust with the Lakers, who's just like, oh no, it's real. This happened. And I think the reason the Lakers fan reaction has been so different than perhaps one would have perceived is, I was thinking about this because I've been trying to contextualize this, and you're right. There is an absolute divine right element to this of where the Lakers just get the stars, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's always been like, for example, going all the way back to like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it was like, okay, I want out of Milwaukee to a big market.
There's like a story involved.
Right. And it's a very specific, like, player want to be on the Lakers, or the Lakers draft Kobe Bryant, or Shaquille O'Neal wants to, he's a free agent and he chooses to sign with the Lakers. LeBron is a free agent, chooses to sign with the Lakers. It's never been a situation where, kind of unprompted, hey, somebody's like knocks on our door and says, hey, Lakers, do you want this 25-year-old generational superstar? It's there's never actually been a case of that with the Lakers. And so there's been an element of, we don't even know how to react. Like, we don't know what to do with our hands. It's just like, what are we supposed to do here? And there continues to be that, even in private conversations I continue to have with Lakers fans. Like, there's still a disbelief that this is happening and this has happened, because, I mean, Lakers fans, say what you will, like, we have a pretty nice understanding of our history and kind of what it takes and how hard it is to get like a player like that and how valuable that player can be for a franchise. And there's been it's completely like, we appreciate the hell out of this. Like, this has been such an incredible experience, but at the same time, it remains a shock. It remains perplexing. There still is no plausible explanation for any of this.
Sure.
And so it's been really weird navigating this. Like, nobody wants to, again, I'm just being honest here, like, with the audience. That's all I owe my honesty, as much as some people don't want to hear it. But like, I still find myself tweeting every few days, like, Luka Doncic is a Laker. Like, holy crap. And it's like, it's one of those things where I think in White Lotus, the mom, Parker Posey, was like, hey, we're living like the kings and queens never lived. Like, we're living the best life. And the best thing we can do to honor it is to enjoy it. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, that's just how I feel right now.
That's so. Let's talk about Luka since he's traded. And then I do want to circle back to the Mavs side of this, but
For sure.
So many of our fans are still like very emotionally invested in Luka's kind of career arc.
Of course, yeah.
How has he played since he's been a Laker, and what And has there been anything about watching Luka night in and night out that you were not ready for or weren't really aware of?
Sure. I would say so. First and foremost, there's no question there's been an emotional, just kind of roller coaster element to Luka himself in terms of
Sure.
him getting adjusted. And I think that A, obviously super understandable. B, I think it speaks to the surprising nature and like just completely out of nowhere nature of this trade. And so I'll say, like, I kind of knew this, but I didn't understand before watching him day in, day out, how much of an emotionally charged player he is. Obviously, you see the clips when he hits the game winners and he's talking crap and he's looking at Rudy Gobert, but it's like the daily Tuesday night against Charlotte, whatever, he still carries like an emotion, and you can tell very quickly, oh wow, like he's in everybody's face. And that's like that element of emotional, playing with emotion like that and having his emotion carry his game has been really cool to watch. Actually, I it's my favorite kind of basketball.
When
When
it's
people, yeah,
when it's your guy,
yes,
it's really fucking awesome.
It's the greatest. It
When
really
it's
is.
not your guy. This is why, like, our mutual friend, your colleague Andrew Sharp,
Yeah,
hates him.
yeah,
Because he never shuts up.
yes,
And I gave I think it's not real. I talked to Tim McMahon for a piece that he's coming out about tomorrow, and like Luca reminds me of, and I mean this in a positive way, but he reminds me of a child in some of the best ways possible.
Yeah,
because there's such like passionate intensity
yes,
all the time, and that goes both ways, where it can really help, and
yes.
then it can make you be like, "What are you doing?"
Which there have been elements of. Like, there have been some games where it's just like, what, like, come on, man, like come on, let's like let's not let something that happened in the first quarter ruin your entire game. But it's a give and a take, but it's been way more give. And I think I still also, like, I don't think I fully appreciated just how many tools he has in his tool bag. Like against Oklahoma City, which I think was his best game, he's scored more in different games in the past, but just in terms of the intensity level of that game, the execution, the way he played, the way he carved up Oklahoma City, it's the different array and different ways he's getting to his shots that I just really didn't appreciate. Like, obviously, like, this is not to say that I didn't think he was great or all this stuff. No. But it's like when you watch a player day in, day out, when he's your guy, especially, you start detecting the patterns. You're like, oh wow, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's the way he's finishing at the rim is also something like I didn't really appreciate. Just because you look at him and you think about the step back threes and all those kind of plays, but you don't really the wide array of ways he's finishing at the rim and some of the and ones he hit, and it's just I'm learning more and more and more, and it's getting me more and more and more invested in this experience.
Well, what's particularly interesting is if you go look at his shot like chart data over the years, the year that I would recommend looking at in terms of location is 1920. Okay, so year 2.
Got it.
He was shooting so many of his shots in both the restricted area, which he really doesn't get to very much anymore,
Yep.
sort of like the 5 foot to 8 foot range. And he doesn't do that as much anymore. And the question becomes why?
Yep.
And the pessimist would say he's too heavy. He can't get past anyone anymore. And he's relying on his step back three. The optimist would say, well, he goes through stretches where he shoots 45% from three. So he just doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
His 3-point volume games are a riot where you're like, you look at the box score and you go, he shot 14 threes.
Yeah.
Who does he think he is? And then you're like, oh, he hit 6. I'll live with that.
Yep.
So, and that was really the genesis of his 70 whatever point game against the Hawks, where everyone's bitching. It's like, oh, well, we've got to allow more physicality. Look at how many free throws are happening in these. We gotta stop calling all these fouls. Luka went bananas from 3 against the Hawks. Like, it was a game that Kobe Bryant in his peak gunning days would have loved because they just were single guarding him.
Yep.
Anyway, that's kind of the answer I was hoping for, but I was still a little curious because I've not checked out as many Lakers games. I kind of end up turning them on more than I would like to admit because I like Luka. I like watching him play. I get that heliocentric basketball is not for everyone. I think that I don't know if you subscribe to his Substack yet, but my friend Iztok Franco, who's covering the Lakers even more, has been kind of talking about this for years and years. Luka can play off ball. He, in fact, played most of his career off ball, and his EuroLeague coaches and his overseas coaches often kept him off ball as a means of challenging him, like to keep him going. And so that's kind of, I think, where his, the head coach and JJ Redick, where I think we'll find some new ways to figure out how to get Luka going in different ways. Because playing him with the different lineups with Austin Reeves and with LeBron James, and if the Lakers ever get another functional big man, there's going to be some really fun things that I think come out of the offense with him, because he's not just a guy that needs the ball, and people that say he only can play that way, frankly, don't know what they're talking about, and that includes some of our friends. So if you're listening, go fuck yourself, friends of Daman and Kirk.
No, so I will say, and by the way, I should say this. I've been to one game so far with Luka. I'm planning on going to hopefully some playoff games. I will say, in the building, this is the first time I have experienced what I experienced watching Kobe in person. And I've heard this from so many Laker fans who have gone to these games, who would not, for obvious reasons, throw that around very casually.
Right.
We could take a wait and see approach and say, Luka's still getting used to, we're getting used to Luka, Luka's getting used to us. But no, instantly people have said there's a Kobe element to the way he plays and the electricity he generates and that passion he generates. And I did want to make sure I mentioned that, because I do think that one of the great things that has emerged from this already very early is he has a very natural connection with the Lakers crowd, and the Lakers crowd has very naturally.
He's a showman.
To him. He's a showman, and in a lot of ways, like, forget how he got here. Being a Laker and his game style and kind of the evolution from Kobe to him, there's a lot of things that make sense, just in terms of like this basketball philosophy and the city and the way it's kind of all fitting together. To your point, though, about playing off ball and all this stuff, I do think the dynamic between LeBron, him, and even Austin Reeves has been really cool to watch, and it's still a work in progress, of course. There's this thing that JJ Redick is doing is they start with all three of them, but LeBron goes to the bench, Austin Reeves sometimes goes to the bench right away, and then like Luka leads a unit. And then when Luka sits, they have LeBron and Austin Reeves out there running their unit because they already have such a great chemistry. And I think one thing that the OKC game specifically was the highest level game that the Lakers have played so far, where all three of LeBron, Austin, and Luka got theirs in a way that was very natural and organic. And one thing I will say, for me personally, I have been blown away by the way LeBron James has played since the addition of Luka, in terms of there's the cynical angle of, well, of course LeBron is being deferential because he knows this is one of his last chances to win a title and that's the only way it'll work. But I see a very, very natural, true basketball respect that LeBron James has for Luka, to which he's been as deferential. Like, LeBron has straight up in many big games, including the Oklahoma City game. And I keep coming back to the Oklahoma City game because it was the best win of the season in a lot of ways for the Lakers. LeBron kind of sits back for multiple quarters, like 2.5, 3 quarters, and lets Austin Reeves kind of run the show. He plays more of a Draymond role, and then LeBron can kind of pick it up at the end, which I think also, listen, there's questions about Luka's conditioning. There's question about Luka's, whatever you want, his physicality at this point and all that. Having a LeBron who's rested, geared up for a fourth quarter, and Luka carrying the show up until that point, pretty interesting option for the Lakers if they can kind of keep that going. But LeBron genuinely, like, I see a genuine, true respect. This is nothing is forced here between how LeBron feels playing next to Luka.
Okay, so one comment, and then I'm going to cut to a quick break because I got to insert some ads. I will say, I think that between the two of them, LeBron was really, he's so physically gifted that when he was in his super long prime, which probably went till he was about 36 years old, probably is like an 11-year prime. He was just so physically dominant. He was able to take over games because of that physicality, but I don't think there's a natural game takeover quality to him. Like, I don't think it's his instinct. He wants to play basketball the right way, so to speak. Whereas Luka has that thrill of the moment feel, and he will always make the basketball play too, but he wants to fucking kill you.
You know what I'll say? You know what I'll say is really interesting about this, and where my fingers crossed optimism is? If LeBron has a takeover element to his game in any regard, it's defensively, where he can just say, "No, I'm shutting you down. Like, it's over for you guys." And Luka's the same way offensively. Pretty interesting.
That's right. Okay, guys. So if you want to support my show in any real way, it's going to be listening to these ads. I know listening to ads is blech, but honestly, it's one of the most important parts in supporting kind of podcasts that you're with. Now, I will say, somebody let me know that ads didn't get inserted the other day. We're transitioning into a new system, so there might be like 5 seconds of silence instead of ads. I can't really control that right now, so we're gonna put them in, and then Daman and I will be right back. I have a couple more questions for him, and then I'll let him get on with his day. I told him I'd keep him for 20 minutes. We're at 20 minutes right now. Okay, guys, this is Kirk and Daman. We are talking Mavericks Lakers. We've talked about kind of the Lakers side of things with Luka, which is not at all painful. Now I want to talk, I'm choosing to not talk too much. I just don't want to talk about the Kobe element of this, because Nico Harrison, Mavericks GM, has made some off the record comments about Kobe related stuff. And it's just, it's so stupid and infuriating. And I don't really want to rehash it again. Now, what I do want to rehash is sort of, Anthony Davis has only played, I think, 7 games with the Mavericks so far. He came over injured, which is, another element of this trade that is just remarkable. But I don't want to kill the guy, because I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about him long term. I'll just tell everybody that right now. He's 32 years old. I have watched him since he was a freshman in college. An unbelievable defensive player. But in terms of how he impacts the game on both sides of the floor, it's just a little bit challenging. And so what I want to know from your kind of experiences watching Anthony Davis, shout out to my dog drinking water in the background after barking in the background for 30 solid seconds. What are kind of your takeaways from watching Anthony Davis for, the 6 or so, 7? How many seasons was it with the Lakers? Was it 7 seasons or 6?
About 6, yeah.
Yeah, so 6 seasons.
20. Yeah.
So you win the title in 2020 with him just playing unbelievable basketball.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. So talk to me a little bit about your experience with him.
So I absolutely love Anthony Davis. Obviously he's won a title with the franchise, so that'll always have importance to me. And I will say it's kind of ironic, but especially towards the end of his Lakers tenure, obviously I didn't know it was going to be the end of his Lakers tenure. I had an increasing appreciation for Anthony Davis because I stopped worrying about what he couldn't do and started just appreciating what he does. And the way he plays defense on any given night, truly, I'd say on any given night, he could just ruin the next team, ruin his opponent, and be the best defender in the world. It's an absolute shame, partially due to his health, that he has no Defensive Players of the Year. But the only frustration that would come is just with the lack of consistency on offensive aggression. And that is the central reason why I think that Anthony Davis fits so well in LA, because he was a very natural number 2 option under LeBron. And even though, especially towards the last couple of years, Anthony Davis, when engaged and aggressive offensively, was the clear-cut number one option on both offense and defense for the Lakers.
Mhm.
But in aggregate, because he has that inconsistency, he naturally slotted in as a number two. And that's the reason why, despite Anthony Davis being truly one of the most talented, physically gifted players of all time, he's never been able to be a centerpiece being the number one franchise centerpiece of a team that, kind of went the distance in the playoffs. And so I know I just said I shouldn't dwell on what he can't do, but in terms of doing a player analysis, best in the world defensive potential. He has the ability to be, a top 5-7 talent in the NBA, but the lack of offensive consistency is what drops him a peg lower than that. And that's
the box. I always tell people, and that's like, again, this is more of an analysis than a criticism because it's simply who he is. But if you go look at box scores, what you'll see is like 6 to 8 okay games in terms of box score impact, which is not always the most important thing.
Yep.
And then you'll see 2 to 4 games where he looks like a top 5 player in the league.
Yep.
And my co-host Josh, he watches mostly Mavs, but he's a very good analyst, and he was getting into the data after the fact, and he just didn't understand how much of Anthony Davis's offensive game relies on a face-up jump shot.
Yep.
And a couple of Mavericks people, including people I really appreciate, have said, well, there's a lot of Dirk to his game. And I'm like, there is one Dirk. You don't and that's not you just can't compare guys to Dirk because Dirk was the best mid-range shooter of all time. Probably only, and this is going to seem blasphemous to the chat, Joel Embiid is probably the only other player that is this good from the mid-range. And so it's Anthony Davis. What he'll do is he'll just face up on the wing and take a jumper, face up on the wing and take a jumper. And when it's going down, it opens up everything else for him. Now, kind of an obvious statement, but that's when he looks unbeatable. And when he's forcing things at the basket, he just doesn't have that. I don't know. This is also going to sound ridiculous because Jason Tatum is an amazing player, but when Tatum attacks the basket, sometimes it's just what do you know what I mean? It's what is this?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
He has the skill to get there, but not the skill to finish.
Yeah, and I think it's skill. It's also this is where. So one thing that I appreciate about him, and I think you're seeing it too, is he gives his body to the game. He, in a way where almost I'm like, hey, scale it back a little, just because it's risky.
To a reckless degree,
right?
Yeah.
But he truly gives it all, and I think though the accumulative effect of that physicality is. He can't finish through that contact as much as possible just because he has so much wear and tear on his body during the entire course of the game and the season and all that. And so I think that contributes to that where it's at the rim, it's just it just needs to be a little bit better. It needs to, those percentages need to be a little higher for somebody of his size and skill set. Mm-hmm. And I do think that to the roster construction, I think this is why he's always wanted to play next to a center. I mean, he's been very explicit about that.
Well, that's a really fascinating kind of jumping off point. So with the Mavericks, as they're kind of structured right now, they don't have any guards. They have Spencer Dinwiddie, and that is it. Yeah. That is it. So over these last couple of games, we've actually gotten to see the big ball lineups that the Mavericks have envisioned, but without any reasonable dribbling guard play. Klay Thompson makes a difference. And I will tell you, the Clippers detonated on the Mavericks. The offense was non-existent. Now, Zubac is kind of a low-key defensive player of the year candidate. He's been very, very good in space, so maybe that's not the best example. But as Josh and I keep talking, the best teams are able to play good defense. So if your offense is kind of mired up, because right now, Anthony Davis's driving lanes are clogged up because you got Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford in the dunker spot. The help just sits there. So him wanting to play this way, meaning Anthony Davis, relies on his jump shot being supernaturally good, and it just isn't going to be. Now, this gives us an opportunity to kind of talk about the game tomorrow night. do you like the way things are trending? This is Tuesday morning. I probably won't get this up till Tuesday afternoon. I don't think Luka plays tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder because what have you heard? What have you heard?
So they definitely, I think, are completely feeling it out because they won the last game. I think that both LeBron and Luka, they changed the injury designation for the game. I don't think that they'll play. I think at least one will sit. I will say I've been impressed by how available Luka has been.
He always wants to play. Like that was part of that was actually one like the biggest challenge is like when he gets like dead legged or something, when he gets like a thigh contusion, he just wants to play through it. And it's like, buddy, you got to rest.
Yeah. And so I do hope like I do know like this is just in conversations I've been having with everybody around the team and stuff like that.
A lot can change before tonight. Yeah.
A lot can change. Also, I do know that they are very, very cognizant of how important the Dallas game will be. And
somebody in the comments earlier said Luka's not playing tomorrow night. And I'm like, ESPN would find the Lakers the maximum possible amount if Luka doesn't play.
There's no way. And by the way, I think that the Lakers have internally, everybody knows how important that game is. And I think that they're really going to do everything they can to have it, have Luka have a great night. We'll see. I mean, speaking to the emotions, like it could go in either direction. I feel like Luka could have a, 1 for 13 kind of from 3 night, or he could just blow the roof off that building.
Well, on paper, it's actually a really interesting styles make fights kind of game. The Mavericks don't have guard play. That's the overarching problem for them. But the flip side is that you are not getting in the paint against this Mavericks team. They just wall it off with big people. And so it the Lakers shot a bajillion % against the Thunder from 3 on Sunday. And the way basketball seems to go, at least for when I watch, it's like you have a couple of hot shooting games and then one by death. And so I've been, I think kind of the consensus thought is, well, that Luka's going to come in and do something insane, which I think is actually a fair bet. But we've seen games like this from the Lakers where that happens and it's nowhere near enough. Yeah. Because it's just nobody else is hitting kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very, very interesting test for the Lakers to see how they respond to a team as big and physical as Dallas can be.
Yep.
But I do think how Luka is playing against switches, especially when big men switch on to him, how he plays in that situation has determined a lot for because I mean,
and he will love playing against the guys who he just spent all his time with. Like Derek Lively as a potential to be an all NBA level defender. He's going to light him on fire.
Yeah.
It's just what Luka does to bigs.
Yeah. And I will say physically that has been a very clear test of how Luka has been feeling, because there's been some games this year, especially when Luka first got to the Lakers, where he wasn't beating bigs who were switched on to him in a way that we're accustomed to seeing. And I was like, ooh, he's not physically right yet. And that has changed, especially, again, I'm pointing to the OKC game. Like, really, people need to watch highlights or something just to get primered of how Luka beat those switches. Man, he was frying people. He was frying bigs on the switch. And he hadn't quite hit that level until these last few weeks. I really do think, hopefully he's physically getting back to what he is. By the way, hilarious note, he always looks hurt, and he always, right now, he's coming off the bench and he's 8 layers that he's taken off and tape and this and that. Yep. And I'm like, oh my God, can this guy walk? And then he just goes for a 9-0 run. Completely.
I've kept you so much longer than I want to, but that's actually going to be the thing for the coming seasons, where looking ahead between these two teams, Luka does need to get his body right. The one thing Nico Harrison was correct about, and Luka and Slovenians across the board will probably fight this post, but I'm just telling you guys, you look at August, I think it's August of 2020, game 6 and 7 against the Clippers in the bubble. Go look at photos of Luka Doncic, and then go specifically look in the December 2020 preseason game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He looks different. He put on a lot of weight. It is an inarguable thing
Yeah.
And I spent years getting yelled at by the various people who just exist to cape for, that thing that you're seeing with your eyes isn't real.
Yeah.
Now I'm free of a lot of these people. So I don't particularly care to not get my house firebombed or anything by this lunatics. But his body changed. He was still remarkably effective. Yeah. I think for him to take that next step, he has to find he'll never go back to where he was, because frankly, he's older. Your body changes a lot between 20 and 25 normally.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's ever going to go back to playing at 225 pounds. Okay. But I think Luka can reasonably play at 235 to 245 and be good. Like, I think that's where he is right now, like weight wise.
He looks good. And by the way, he's slimmed down since he got to LA noticeably.
Mm-hmm. But he does the same thing Tony Romo used to do, which is like, you can tell when he had beers the night before. And maybe he's given that up. But I mean, let's be clear. Like, us Mavs fans knew when he was drinking the night before. Like, he just has that body type. That's fine. But the next step for him is he has to find that Jokic level cardio conditioning where he doesn't get tired. And it happened to James Harden too, where James Harden got roasted that first year in Houston and then came back and was essentially a 40-minute per game tank. Luka's never been that. He's never been that. And that's sort of the step for him, because I think if the cardio's there, you worry less about the quickness or the ability to get by people, because I earnestly think that when he chooses to, he can, but he doesn't want the physical punishment. Because, I mean, look, I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Compared to the two of them, Luka gets hit so much more than Shai does.
Yeah, dude.
It's not close. Like, him and Giannis, Luka and Giannis get murdered going to the basket. And anybody that says otherwise, once again, I'm just saying, you don't know ball. You don't know what physicality feels like. Luka outweighs Shai by 60 pounds. It's just a different deal. Oh, well. Well, okay. I should probably let you go. Do you have any other takes before we get out of Dodge?
No, man. I just want to say, you don't want to hear it, but I'm sorry to Mavs Nation. I really am. Like, it's a genuine, but at the same time, enjoy Luka, please. We will be nice to you. Watch games.
I can't wait for what's going to happen at the arena, because I earnestly think you're going to get like 16,000 people chanting Nico sucks or something, and they're just not going to know what to do on the broadcast. Like, there's a lot of vitriol around here. It's not getting better. And that's what it's turning into apathy, but people are still really pissed.
Well, apathy, but when they're given an opportunity to, say their piece, they will.
Yeah. Okay, guys, this has been Daman Rangoola. I'd tell you where to find his stuff, but he's just go to his Twitter account. It's a great Twitter account at DAMAR. Dang it. DAMANR. There we go. God, it's for me for spelling. Everybody be good. This has been Kirk and Daman at Kirk Your Enthusiasm for Pod Maverick. Everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you guys on Wednesday night, unless I record again. Who knows?
Thank you.